To the general public, Meagan Good was always the calm girl, the attractive girl, and the grounded, devout woman who managed to make her way through Hollywood. She was the church wife, the repentant video vixen, and the safe face of sensuality, and she was never the source of scandal, but she was always next to the mess. A clean exterior conceals a dark side, and the more you learn about Meagan's life, particularly her romantic decisions, the more you question whether she is truly drawn to broken, or does she unconsciously pursue guys because she believes she is the one who can mend what has already broken. This was seen when she connected with Jonathan Major in the following his incident. People were shocked to see the woman whose divorce from a Hollywood preacher had only begun to fade, and suddenly showed up holding a man, battling some absurd accusations. It's simple to dismiss it as unfortunate timing, but if you look more closely, a much more intricate psychological picture emerges. To create one in which Meagan might not be the healer but rather the calm storm. In this sweltering disaster, Fix It, Black Jessicayers, Devin Franklin and Meagan's relationship was portrayed as evidence that nice girls prevail. Yet beyond that, Fakade was a lady who was conforming to a stereotype. After some time, Devin filed for divorce. And she passed from Sister Meagan to Miss Good, if you're cruel. And then Jonathan appeared with a small cup while searching for his Keta, Scott King. He was also a man at the heart of a scandal. Meagan's allegiance to him was perceived by the public as strange because he was a once respected actor in need of forgiveness. But what if it was all a ploy? Dr. Carol McBride, a therapist who specialized in codependent behaviors and trauma bonding because they are addicted to feeling needed and chosen. Women who are commended for being nice girls frequently pursue damaged spouses in an attempt to win their love through sacrifice. It turns into a sedative. Given Jonathan's public disintegration, he might have been the ideal candidate for that pattern. Here, Meagan intervenes with composure, tenderness, and stillness on behalf of a guy whose world is on fire. She is standing by his side without explicitly supporting him or speaking for him. If she's still sticking with him, a lady like her must think he's worth saving. But here's where the twist comes. What if Meagan is drawn to the power she experiences when she is in the middle of someone else's mesinsis instead of just chaos? With Devin, she was the one being shaped, and with Jonathan, she was the one molding. When she is in control, she can be the devoted ride-or-die leader, and the one who stayed when everyone else left. This provides her a sense of purpose, power, and increased exposure. It's not about love. It's about the story and repetition compulsion. The unconscious want to reenact unresolved past dynamics in a way that permits you to change the ending. Is what trauma psychologists refer to as this. What on earth are you discussing? What you're discussing, Willis, and what that means. Don't worry, Aunt. I'll explain everything to you. Meagan was unable to salvage her first marriage and her reputation, but perhaps she thinks she can save this man. The actor who is broken behind the headlines, the injured boy. This type of behavior is frequently referred to by psychiatric psychologists as heroic empathy. It is an unconscious impulse to help broken individuals in the hopes that their recovery will confirm your self-worth. Turns into a type of identity. You are no longer merely a partner but a redeemer. However, if Jonathan never recovers or if his internal problems worsen, the price of that role is tremendous. Meagan can be caught in a vicious loop of here's a question for the best friends, damage control, and emotional exhaustion. If she feels most powerful during a crisis, she can mistake that chaos for a purpose. What if Meagan is the warning sign in a different way than we typically think? Although she doesn't intentionally start the fire, she keeps walking into it as someone who subtly gravitates toward dysfunction since it provides her identity and allows her to be both the muse and the martyr. With a lighter in her hand, Kaboom examines the trends of her choosing to co-star in Jonathan's life narrative and her inability to let go despite the attention of the media. This is not just loyalty. It's psychological immersion, and that's a woman who can consider herself to be the storm's calm when, in fact, her presence may be exactly what intensifies the storm's pressure system. This isn't about whether she is at fault. Rather, it's about examining what occurs when a woman who has spent decades in the shadow of masculine desire eventually sees her own reflection in the failure of another person. Despite not being poisonous in the conventional sense, Meagan's behavior is unsettling. Appears unaffected by the mesinsis, but for Jonathan, having Meagan by his side throughout a crisis is calculated since it softens his image and reminds the world of his potential rather than his accusations. The repercussions are mainly internal. She grows more emotionally invested in the possibility of a man who might never be able to earn her allegiance the longer she stays in this relationship, and when your sense of value is dependent on someone, The toughest truth is that you end up sinking with someone else's change. So where does that leave her supporters, who saw her grow after her divorce and hoped she would finally live for herself instead of someone else? Nothing can be done to help her escape this situation. Even her closest friends attempted to caution her, but their worries were ignored. A woman thrives in chaos when her identity is interwoven in being the tranquility of another. She views the storm as the home of the outer world rather than a threat. It appears that she's drowning, but she feels as though she's needed, essential. She is at last irreplaceable.
You must not know about me, you must not know about me. So don't you ever for a second get to thinking you're irreplaceable.
And every attempt to yank her away feels like betrayal and abandonment when it turns into her definition of love, removing anything from her that gives her a sense of completeness. But for Meagan, nobody can make that decision for her or use a hashtag, headline, or thousands of begging remarks for a woman who has dedicated her life to performance, first for the public and later for the church. She must choose serenity for herself, world for her marriage back then, and perhaps for a man who is about to. Because it necessitates silence and introspection, tranquility can be frightening if you've lived by continuously demonstrating your value. Hence, this narrative isn't finished yet, since Meagan may one day understand she was never meant to be silent. She was only ever intended to save herself, not to save him.